wife says I have a tendency to be long-winded, so I'll try. I know everybody's tired, but I'm exhausted. I'm Haitian, so before I speak, I have to ask permission of the ancestors to speak. So I speak in the name of the goddess of my country, in the name of the father of my country, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, and the ancestors, and I hope my work is in line with the fight of my ancestors against global capitalism, white supremacy, and barbaric Christianity. So on that note, I'll start my presentation. My presentation is titled Against Critical Race Theory. It's part of a larger work on agency, theoretical agency practices, building off the work of Anthony Giddens, building off the work of Habermas, Marshall Solomons, etc. So what I don't want to make it theoretical, so what I want to do is use a case study to get to where I want to go. And I'm going to use the case of Haiti that embodies, and I will tie the case of Haiti to Dr. Foster's presentation as well, because this is an issue of agency and whether or not critical race theory is a conservative movement or whether or not it's a revolutionary theoretical framework. When the Haitian Revolution begins in August 14, 1791 at a historical site called Bois-Caïman, which is in the northern coast of Haiti, it was at what we call a voodoo ceremony, in which Boukman was a Muslim, called on the 21 tribes that were represented, the 19 tribes that were represented in Haiti at the time, and he told them to revolt against the system. Now I'm just going to focus on three groups. There are three black groups fighting for power in Haiti when the revolution commences. And these three groups will correspond to the two theoretical strains in critical race theory. That's the Bourgeois liberal bourgeois liberalism of critical race theory, and the Fanon strain, which is more of the postmodern, post-structural strand of critical race theory, social constructivism. So politically speaking, it breaks down between those who push for a politics of redistribution and a politics of recognition. So when the Haitian Revolution, the liberal brand of the liberal representatives of the Haitian Revolution are represented by the mulatto elites. Three major people. A guy by the name of André Brigard, who fought at the Battle of Savannah here in the American Revolution. Alexander Pétion, who would become the first president of the Republic, and Jean-Pierre Boyer. Now, it's funny because Alexander Pétion would become the first president of the Republic, but he was sent back by Napoleon to reclaim the island for France. Now, he's a mulatto elite. Now, they were more, the mulatto elites during that time in Haiti were not only slave holders, they held slaves, but they were also very racist. Their fight is for equality of opportunity, recognition, and distribution. They simply want to have the same rights as whites. So that's the Bourgeois liberal radical push strand of critical race theory. They don't want the system to change. They don't want to get rid of slavery now. They want to maintain the status quo. They just want to, because they weren't allowed to practice under the Napoleonic Code Noir. They weren't allowed to become doctors, lawyers, etc., or practice those professions. However, they inherited land from their fathers, of course, and they were sent to school in France. The petty bourgeois blacks are also fighting for equality of opportunity, distribution, and recognition. And they're represented by the three major leaders in Haitian history. And that's Henri Christophe, Toussaint Louverture, and the father of the country, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. They're fighting for recognition as blacks to participate, because they were slave owners as well. Toussaint had slaves. Dessalines had slaves. Christophe, who would become the emperor or the king of the northern department after independence. So they're fighting for the same thing as the mulatto elites, but they want recognition as blacks, that blacks can be leaders and hold these positions as well as whites. And then you have a third group that has been swept away in history, as the anthropologist, the late anthropologist Michel Toulouse, in his book Silence in the Past, he points out who he calls the children of Makaya, Sans Souci, and Jean-Francois. When the Haitian Revolution begins, 67% of the population were directly from Africa when the revolution began, and majority of us were from the Congo. And we maintained all of our African tradition in the provinces, and they're represented by the revolutionary leaders such as Sans Souci and Makaya, who fought against Dessalines, Christophe, Pétion, because they want nothing to do with anything that resembled the white status quo, the whole social system. And what they would do, they would establish a different social system and form of social integration and form of system integration framed around Vodou. So if you go outside of Port-au-Prince into the provinces of Haiti, you know, a different form of system and social integration took place. What I call an anti-dialectic strand, the Congolese strand of Haiti. In fact, to bury that strand, Christophe assassinated Sans Souci, and you all know what he did after that? He named a palace after him, because in the Congo, if you name a building after a general or someone great, you erase their name from history. So even Haitians themselves don't know that Sans Souci was from the Congo, he was a revolutionary leader. They just associate the name Sans Souci with the palace of Sans Souci. So what we have here are three different forms of fight against capitalism, against white supremacy, as well as the third strand is also fighting against Christianity. They want nothing to do with Catholicism or anything to do with that. So what you have is these three strands would correspond, well, two of them, what Nancy Fraser in her book, Justice Interrupt This, what she calls this fight for equality of opportunity, recognition, and distribution, which would characterize the post-socialist world, with the world condition contemporarily. Those two strands in Haiti are represented by the petty bourgeois blacks as well as the mulatto elites. The third strand is not represented, although today, contemporarily, there is the protest movement in Haiti. It's the children of Pétion are fighting against the children of Dessalines. They forget about the children of Makaya and Sans Souci, who want nothing to do with capitalism, nothing to do with Christianity, nothing to do with the global capitalist social structure. In Haiti, after the revolution, once they assassinated Dessalines, majority of the Haitians moved to the mountains and in the provinces. And they reproduced their African way of life in the provinces against the mulatto elites and the petty bourgeois blacks. So, the basis of my paper, what I'm arguing is that in order to salvage or to save humanity from this, what Christopher Hedges is calling this pending doom, this crisis of capitalism, we need an anti-dialectical movement against capitalism, as the children of Sans Souci and Makaya foresaw it. We need a movement that is not looking to dialectically participate within the social system by fighting for equality of opportunity, recognition, and distribution. Why? Because within the negative dialectics of the Frankfurt School, that fight, led by people of color, is still an attempt to maintain the status quo. So I argue in this piece, which is part of a larger work, that we have to do what the Africans did. Because the Africans of Haiti led the revolutionary movement. They commenced the revolutionary movement. It was simply usurped by the mulatto elites, who basically established an apartheid state. What Haiti is contemporarily is an apartheid state. You have 99% of the population who speak Creole, practice Vodou. discriminated against by the mulatto elites who everything is in French. The majority of the population can't read or write French. It took the 1987 Constitution to recognize Creole as the national language of Haiti. So what we have in Haiti today is an apartheid state, is a continual exploitation by the mulatto elites to establish, and it's obvious. It's discriminatory. It's worse than what South Africa was in the 80s prior to this movement towards integration. So what we need in order to salvage humanity, and this is a theoretical aim of my piece, in order to salvage humanity from the pending devastation of global capitalism, we need an anti-dialectical movement. Again, not a fight for equality of opportunity, recognition, and distribution, but a fight against the system to establish an alternative form of system and social integration, what Habermas called an alternative form of system and social integration. Now, Haiti's revolutionary movement has commenced by the children of Sun Suu Kyi, patterns that's going on in Latin America today with the indigenous movement, because Vodou is an indigenous religion of Haiti. Not the Vodou of New Orleans, by the way, but a different form of Vodou in Haiti. So what I'm arguing is, in order to salvage humanity from global capitalism, we need an alternative. LGBTQ communities, etc., people of color, we should not be fighting for equality of opportunity and recognition and distribution within the system that threatens the very way of life that we live. It threatens humanity. It threatens the globe. So how can we fight within the system that dooms us to start with? It's paradoxical. And Sun Suu Kyi and Makaya recognize that. And this is in 1791. Makaya is assassinated in 1804. So the basis or the crux of the paper is to argue that we need we have to, and it's against critical theory, but what I'm arguing is critical theory is itself a conservative movement, because a call for a new form of system and social integration is more radical than the fight for the piece of the pie. So I will end it on that.
It seems as if critical theory is everywhere. It sits on every side. Like Carl Grant, Pepper, and I just published a book on Black intellectual thought. What you realize, even Du Bois, Locke, and Woodson were thoroughly influenced by Western thought.
Yes.
How do you, as a scholar, locate your framework outside of a framework that has so pervasive critical theory? Even today, Giddens, Habermas.
It's funny, good question, by the way. To attack Giddens and Habermas, I began my theory is called phenomenological structuralism, published in the Journal of Sociology. And what I attempt to do is synthesize phenomenology with structuralism through Vodou and quantum theory, quantum mechanics, as opposed to general relativity. So it's an attempt to fuse physics with the logic of Vodou, the metaphysics of Vodou, Marxist materialism, and praxis theory. For me, that's an alternative to, because it patterns the indigenous movement, because it's a different conceptualization. When I say Vodou represent a different form of system and social integration, what that means is it offers an alternative means of organizing the material resource framework. When we talk about the metaphysics of Vodou, what they did in the provinces, I'm going to give a concrete example. Haiti is one of the only islands in which gays and lesbians and transgender people aren't marginalized. Why? Because you're taught at an early age in Vodou, a queer, a lesbian, or whomever is simply an embodiment of either, because in Vodou you're reincarnated 16 times, 8 times as a female, 8 times as a male. So If you're a lesbian and if you're a lesbian, that means you were a male in a past life. But you're not supposed to discriminate against that being, because that's a spiritual being. In Vodou, there is no, there was a synthesis between what they took the Taino culture and the Haitian Congolese culture, I'm sorry, the African Congolese culture, and they fused it. And that offered them so therefore the aim was not for economic gain. The aim was not to exploit labor. In fact, in Vodou we have a proverb: to work for another person is for that person to control your consciousness. So selling your labor power is frowned upon in Vodou. So therefore everyone has to, so if you go into provinces, you'll walk along the roads and the women are selling the same items. You'll have 100 women selling the same thing. And you wonder, how do they live? Because, they're all not allowed to sell everything. So it's a different conception of how you organize the material resource framework. I have that conception. And part of theory, constituting, is a personal one. So being what, and that's I argue that in my work. Cornell West, Eric Dyson, W.E.B. Du Bois, even Fanon. It's funny because Fanon frowned upon the Haitian way of life in the provinces. When he writes about, the mulatto elites need to control the entire and provide education so they can remove the voodoo element from the provinces. And this is the same brother who's writing Black Skin, White Mass, which is problematic.
That's right.
So we need an alternative framework in that it has to come out of the indigenous movement. As I see it must come out of the indigenous movement.
Do you think in that moment, though, in your explanation of it, you don't need Marxist materialism?
You don't.
Right.
You don't. I do it simply for journal articles. Right.
But
you don't need it. Right. You don't need it. Because you're reconceptualizing. Because the problem that I'm having is, can Marxist dialectic lead us out of this problematic we're facing contemporarily? I don't believe Marxist dialectic leads us to a communal society in which no one is working and we're experiencing. No, because Marx didn't take into account the impact that capitalism will have on the environment. And Mother Nature is fighting back. I think it was two.
Yeah, I want to follow similar. I read about the Haitian Revolution and Anna Julia Cooper's dissertation, and which I thought was just a fascinating study, and a study that needs to be read by more people. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I can't pronounce the words like you pronounce them. I knew that was free. and that part, but the words I just cannot get. All right, I could follow all of that. But then when you go to Bordeaux, and you want to draw on him, but you want to push away the borders. Okay, which is okay. You want to introduce, in some ways, Marx, in which you have to wonder, and of all of those ways of thinking about government, which we're talking about, the one thing about democracy, they said, it is an experiment. It is a project. So tell me what your idea is. As Anthony just mentioned, you don't need Marxist materialism. So therefore, you do need something. What is your something? And where does it spring from?
Well, I hope I was God. My something is we have to get rid of government. That may be the answer. We have to get rid of large social institutions and go back to communal living. There is a reason why most of the indigenous communities in Africa, in Latin America, and the Tainos did not build strong big social structures. We may have to do that. Go back to, we may have to go to Chomsky and anarchism. Maybe that's the answer. Chomsky and anarchy.
But you also got to be real. I mean, you got to be real.
And real is this current form of system and social integration leads to we're all dead. We just don't know it yet. That's the bottom line.
Well,
Now, have we gone to the point where have we reached the point of no return? This is the fundamental question we have to ask. Have we reached the point of the point of no return? I'm not as pessimistic as Christopher Hedges.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I wasn't here for the beginning of that. But when I walked in here, what I heard you were saying, man, it's time to sing the song.
That's what a lot of climate scientists say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that is such a bleak, which I would call. I mean, the world is. Don't you think the world has been in worse crisis than it is now?
I don't know, bro. I just turned 40. So
You want to find some hope out there.
I just turned 40. I got two boys, 18 and 16. So I hope they change something. Yes, ma'am.
So your talk was premised around a critique of CRT. So my question is about CRT. And this is a question that we sort of grapple with even with my students. In what ways do you see CRT as a theory of redemption, or a theory that's trying to, a theory of redemption and perhaps even social change, as opposed to, or maybe in connection with or collaboration with being a theory of explanation, explaining how and why civil rights or measures taken to improve equity have not worked? Or is it both, or what? Because it feels to me that you are using it in a very particular, you're thinking about it in a very particular way.
Yes.
Which may limit its use as a tool for some other method.
I do. The reason why, and I do not dismiss Dr. Du Bois, by the way. My point with CRT is that it just represents one segment of our struggle as a people, and it negates the other struggles that took place simultaneously with it. And Haiti embodies that, because Haiti embodies not only what Charles Chestnut calls the blue vein society, the aim and goal of the blue vein society, the aim and goal of the petty bourgeois blacks, which is similar, and then but even our leaders, even our revolutionary leaders coming out of the Haitian Revolution swept, because as Touillot mentioned, they wanted to eliminate anything African within Haitian society, which they couldn't, because in fact, two forms of system and social integration emerged simultaneously within Haiti. So what I'm recognizing is the fact that CRT represents one aim of one segment of our fight against racism, capitalism, and the denigration of our African-centeredness. And so therefore we need to pull out the other strand, and that other strand is, I call that element of CRT, I call that the dialectical element, fighting against, pointing out the contradictions of Western society and how we can participate in it, blah, 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 etc. But there's another strand. There's the Martin Robinson Delaney strand. There's the Marcus Garvey, and I don't include that strand, because in Haitian studies, they want to associate Dessalines with Malcolm X. But Dessalines was more than that, because Dessalines, who was the father of the country, is fighting. He's trying to constitute a new nation state in 1806 between two forms of system and social integration. The ideals and aspirations of the mulatto elites who want to acquire wealth, who want slavery, and the majority of the Africans who want to reproduce their African way of life in the provinces. We have something called lacus in Haiti. What are lacus? Lacus are communities who share everything. They're voodoo communities. We have 156 provinces, communal communes in Haiti, 185 lacus. So each commune, or what you would call counties in America, has a lacu, and they share everything. You have tens of thousands of people living in that Laku, they share anything. There's no personal wealth or anything. And that's all over Haiti. In fact, there was a movement under Aristide before his downfall to incorporate the Lacus as corporations. So you would produce your own food, you would have factories in the Lacus, and each Laku, they would share the wealth. Of course, the American imperialism, they don't want that. So my critique of critical race theory is to point out, okay, the dialectical element only represents one strand of the African struggle. I don't like to use black. The African struggle for liberation within, and you have to understand, this is a republic in 1806, the only black republic, the only successful slave revolution in recorded history. So, critical race theory only seems to focus on that one strand, that dialectical strand. There is an anti-dialectical strand. We do have maroon communities, even in Jamaica, who did not want to participate within the capitalist social structure. How do we theorize about them? I group them as anti-dialectical movements, and you're right. I am focusing on that one, that critique of, yes. Yes.
And so, for those of us, because this is my first time hearing this discourse, are you saying that the country was a French-speaking country and then it switched over to a Creole? I misunderstood that piece of it.
The French controlled the western side of the country. 1692 was sold over to the French, the Spanish basically treaty, for a treaty they sold it to the French. The French occupied the country until 1791 when the uprising in the northern plains of Wakaima took place. The difference between American slavery and what happened in Haiti, the French did not reproduce the slave labor. They did reproduce, they simply imported, as slaves passed away, they simply imported more slaves instead of reproducing it sexually, etc. So, when the revolution commences, 67% of the population were directly from Africa. And then the other half were mulatto elites, whites. The whites fled, and you have mulatto elites and petty bourgeois blacks. And they were, the petty bourgeois blacks were former slave, what we would call field command. In Haiti, we call them commandeers. They basically they patrolled the plains. So Toussaint, Dessalines, Christophe, they were first generation, quote unquote, Haitians, because there's no Haiti at the time, it's Saint-Domingue. So they were first generation Haitians they were descendants of Africans. So they spoke, that's why Haitian Creole is more African than the Creole of Martinique, Guadeloupe, and St. Lucia. Because the syntax is more African. The lexicon is a combination of Spanish and the brother who does great, a linguistic brother at MIT, Michel Garvey, does great work on language. In fact, right now he's working what's called the MIT Haiti Initiative. And now what they're trying to do is to institutionalize Creole as the language of instruction in the school system. So what happened was with the assassination, Dessalines becomes the first emperor of Haiti in 1806. He crowns himself emperor of Haiti in 1806 after he defeats the French. And Pétion, Boyer, they were sent. There's a war between the mulatto elites and the petty bourgeois blacks. It's called the War of Knives, from 1794 to 1796. Toussaint kicks out all the mulatto elites and they return back to France. In 1802, Napoleon, once he consolidated power in France, sent the mulatto elites back to the island to gain control of the island and return it as a French possession. However, Dessalines got together with Pétion and they made a pact. We call it the Treaty of Acailles, and they decided, okay, let's get rid of the whites and we'll get control of the island and then we can run it how we wish. They did that. They won the battle of the Battle of Vertier, the last battle of the Haitian Revolution, November 1803, they kick out the French, Rochambeau leaves. However, Pétion assassinates Dessalines, and they establish a republic. Dessalines had established Haiti as a kingdom, an African kingdom, so to speak. Pétion assassinates Dessalines and establishes a republic. And that's a fight between the petty bourgeois blacks as well as the mulatto elites. So Pétion becomes the first president of the republic in 1806 with the death of Dessalines. And the majority of the Africans moved to the provinces, and with the sociologist Jean Casimir calls a counter-plantation movement, plantation system emerged among the Africans in the provinces and in the mountains, because they did not. Because what Pétion did, he reestablished the agricultural export capitalist system on the island with the death of Dessalines. And the Africans didn't want anything to do with that, so they established their own counter-plantation system. So there's been a struggle for power. So from 1806 to 1915, when the U.S. occupies Haiti, Haiti has never had peace. There's been infighting between the mulatto elites, the petty bourgeois blacks, and the majority of the Africans, who they use to fight each other for power. So even till today, you still have this fight. The children of Pétion, mulatto elites, and there's this third group, because Haiti opened its doors to Syrians and Arabs during the First World War and World War II. So you have, contemporarily, what you find in Haiti, you have the mulatto elites who are heavily invested in the tourism industry, because Haiti wasn't allowed to trade after the revolution. And then you have the Arab minority who are invested in manufacturing, textile industry. So they're the ones that toppled Aristide. And then you have the majority, 80% of the population are peasant farmers. They live in the provinces, they speak Creole, they practice voodoo. And so, yes. So I'm sorry,
Thank you very much, but we're out of time.